Okay. Welcome everybody. It's a wonderful date. It's 02/02/2012. So if anybody, hi Lorraine, if anybody wants to rush out and play the numbers tonight, it might be a good idea. I would. So it's now 6:31, and I would open tonight's meeting. To make the announcement, those attending tonight's meeting should be aware that the meeting is being audio and video recorded by ASRSD. Any audience members who wish to record any part of the meeting must inform the chair, who will announce the recording. This is to comply with the Mass Wiretap statute. The listings of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may, in fact, be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. So I will call the regular session to order, and I don't think I've picked on Charlie Cleary yet to lead the pledge, but it looks like he's in a good mood tonight, so he'll probably do a good job.
Sure, absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Charlie.
Sure thing.
Michelle, if you would do the roll call, please.
Mr. DeForge?
Present.
Mrs. Granger?
Present.
Mr. Leone?
Here.
Mr. Quinty? Mrs. Reshoots?
Here.
Mrs. Simmons?
Here.
If we have public, oh, I'm sorry, is Diane here tonight? Well, she's a little late. We can always have her do, she can always do our high school presentation at a later time in the meeting. We would have public participation now. The time limit on the total for public participation is a half an hour. Everybody may speak for 3 minutes, and they need to identify themselves, full name, and their address. Thank you very much, everyone who is here to do that. Mr. Quinty is now here. Hi, Jim.
Madam Chair, if I might. Oh, hey, Jim. Madam Chair, if I might add, if people would like to speak, if they could just type their name into the chat, please.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. There doesn't be anyone who is requesting to speak.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Maybe everybody's still out moving snow. We have the consent agenda vote, January 20th, 2021, the regular session minutes for release. Are there any additions or corrections for those minutes?
Madam Chair, I have one correction on page 2 of the minutes. Just my last name is spelled wrong on when I made the motion.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I've seen far worse. Otherwise, I have no corrections. Thank you.
Okay, so we will have that correction entered. Anybody from anything else?
I'd just like to bring up one thing. The minutes are fine, but just as a general policy, when we ask for public participation, we've been asking for their, who they are and where they live. And we live in kind of a crazy world, and I think people should be able to call in without having to say, where their street address is and that sort of information. And I think it's a public meeting, so I would say if there was a parent or just a person in Lunenburg that wanted to talk to us, they could just say, my name is whatever, and not have to give any more information than that. But I think having their street address and then having the street address listed in the minutes is not consistent with some of the stuff that we see in the world today. And I think most people would like not to be identified by their street address. I'd like to hear what the other
Mr.
members
Quincy,
think.
I was simply going by the rules of town meeting, and I will check on that and to see what the recommendation is.
Maybe just to say what town
Yeah,
calling
that'd be all
from would
right.
be. Yeah,
That's fine. I will see, I'll check into it and see what is generally accepted by open meeting law.
Great.
Okay, thank you. We also have a warrant memo, which I think I just buried. There we go, sticking to something else. Sorry about that. We have a warrant memo, warrant number 1105, dated 1/22/21 for $676,243.01. It's an FY21 biweekly AP warrant. We have payroll warrant number 16, dated 1/29/2021 for $728,501.72, and that's a biweekly payroll. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as amended and the warrant memo, please?
I'll make them. Go ahead, Michelle, you're up.
I was just gonna say so moved.
Second.
Michelle, roll call, please.
Mr. DeForge,
Aye.
Mrs. Granger,
Aye.
Mr. Leone,
Aye.
Mr. Quinty,
All right.
Mrs. Reshoots,
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
So that's unanimous. Thank you very much. The next item on our agenda, I think we're going to slide down. We're expecting Glenn Kuchar, who's the Executive Director of Massachusetts Association of School Committees, to come tonight and to work on the superintendent search. I hope I sent it to him right.
Yep, he's just.
Oh, he's there. I'm sorry.
He's here.
Welcome, Glenn. I'd like to introduce Glenn Kuchar, who's the Executive Director of Massachusetts Association of School Committees.
So, Madam Chair, members of the committee,
And I think you have met other people on the committee, but if you would like me to introduce them again, I would.
I have met everyone.
Okay.
Thanks for coming, Glenn.
Thank you. And I'll try to be very efficient with your time. Let me explain very briefly that I'd like to talk to you about what your options are, given that your superintendent has announced her retirement, and how we may be able to help you work through those options and guide you going into the future. You may accept some of these recommendations. You may want to go in other directions, and whatever you choose, we will provide to you the same services we would give to any member districts, which can be fairly extensive. Very, very quickly, I've presented the committee with a decision tree, which is a public document that you can share with your constituents. Talks a little bit about what you think about as you get ready to look for a superintendent. At this stage, you've got to do a couple of important things and make some important decisions. Number one, you want to think about why your superintendent is leaving and whether or not that will affect how you look for another superintendent. You're a district that's in good shape. Your superintendent is retiring under honorable conditions, and that's the best way to be looking for a new superintendent. So I don't see any of the kinds of crises that would make your position less desirable to the pool of candidates who may aspire to it. You might also want to think about whether or not there are internal candidates whom you wish to consider. A third of our districts just make an internal promotion and move on. A third of them conduct a search process on their own, and a third of them use assistance of a search consultant in doing those searches. We can talk more about that, and I can respond to your questions to give you some more information. You also may wish to think about an interim superintendency, because we're getting a bit late in the year for conducting searches or for you to manage a search that would result in maybe the optimum pool of candidates that you might seek. There are people out there looking for the superintendency. There are good people. Those people will find you. We can help direct them to you because as a member of our association, you're entitled to use our recruiting list. We will post your website. We will distribute information about it to the pool. We'll share it with the Superintendent's Association. They will also support you in this initiative for finding another superintendent. And most of the people looking for superintendencies in the Northeast US go to the websites of the school boards associations and the superintendent's association. So we're there to assist you as needed. Then the critical question is, do you want to look for an interim superintendent? An interim superintendent who might take you through whatever is left of this year if you're superintendent. You remind me again that when your superintendent is formally retiring.
That'd be June 30th is the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, so you might want to think about if you do want to look for an interim superintendent and spend the next academic year doing a search for a permanent superintendent to come on board a year from June. We have an extensive list of people who want to be interim superintendents. We can assist you in finding one. That includes assisting you in advertising, recruiting, helping you interview interim candidates, and giving you some guidance for the process as you move forward. We do that for any member district. There's no fee. And you can start looking for a permanent superintendent starting in September. On the other hand, if you wish to get a search started immediately, you have the choice of doing that search process and running it yourselves with support from people like us, which is a service, or you could conduct a full service search consultancy and have somebody formally assist you in handling some of the major responsibilities necessary in a search. Some of the things that you need to do to a greater or lesser extent, depending upon whether you're looking for an interim superintendent or a long-term superintendent, is developing a position description, putting together collateral material, distributing promotional material to the recruiting database, and to others who might wish to see your position. We can assist you in developing advertising, although there's virtually no paid print advertising that's used for superintendent searches in Massachusetts. Most of it is done electronically around the country because the candidates are so tech savvy, that's where they look. You may also have an interim search committee, which the school committee could do if you wanted to pass off any opportunity for executive sessions, and we can provide you with model interviews and contract consulting for an interim hire. If a district wished to consult a formal search for a long-term superintendent, we can provide some of those same services to you, and the district can handle some of the administrative responsibilities and other duties. If you wish to do your own search, we will provide support to your district in doing it to save you the cost of a search consultancy. If you're looking for a search consultancy for someone to assume all of those responsibilities for you and to act in a professional capacity, there are lots of people who do that. MASC does it as well for our member districts for a fee. So those are your options. And you're in the enviable position of being able to transition smoothly. Even though your superintendent is leaving in June, the principals and the teachers ensure that the kids and the parents see a seamless transition. The central office in an interim superintendency can operate very effectively. If the incumbent superintendent wanted to stay a little longer and provide you with additional support, that's sometimes the case if an interim superintendency might take until September to find someone. I'd welcome your questions. I don't know if I've given you enough information for the Reader's Digest version of your options. But the handout that I've provided to you also will provide you with some extensive assistance. I also, one of the things you want to do before you start this process is have a conversation with your superintendent to make sure that your superintendent truly wants to retire and is ready to move on. Sometimes we try to talk them out of it.
I actually haven't put that in writing yet, but that's my opening ploy every time I walk into the office. So far I've had no results. Have you changed your mind there?
Madam Chair, if I may ask a question. So if we were to start, say, today with a search group, what's the, I guess, sort of what's an average time start to finish of convening a group to search and then having a finalist?
The average time for a process that you might want to expedite because of a deadline would allow you to have a superintendent hired as early May, but that would require some expediting of the process. It would argue for a smaller search committee so that the schedules can be reconciled, and it would argue for expedited process. In other words, getting meetings with the community stakeholders organized more quickly, getting an online survey up quickly, getting decisions made quickly. We can put together promotional materials very quickly if you provide us with the information that we need to do that. And of course, electronically, you could distribute stuff very fast. So you can actually get your notice of vacancy out and start soliciting applications within a couple of weeks. Then you could
Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
Get something done by early May.
I have a question. If we were to have MASC like do the as you said, you could do like the full search for a fee. Do you sort of do you go through all the applicants and pull like those that sort of fit what we're looking for together to present?
We do whatever you ask us to do, but what we generally do is review all the applications, share all the applications with the search committee, and provide to them a recommended tiering list for the candidates that we recommend that they see, as opposed to showing them only the candidates that we recommend that they see. The reason for that is most search committees want to see everything that comes in, just so that there's no question about someone being included or excluded inappropriately.
Okay, one more question. How many people should you have on this search or hiring committee typically?
Search committee?
Yeah, the search committee.
I would suggest, I mean, smaller is better, but your community may not accept a smaller group. And that's what's convenient for the search consultant and the process may not be what's acceptable to the community, and the community is what matters. So a good search committee would have a couple of members of the school committee, 2 or 3. There are 7 of you, right?
6.
6 of you. So 3 of you can serve on the search committee. And I strongly urge the school committee to be represented on the search committee.
Okay.
Couple of parents at different levels, a couple of faculty members at different levels, and maybe a principal or an administrator of some kind. And that would give you 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 9.
Okay.
Can I make a comment? Being a regional school district, we'd have to have both
communities represented. And then there were
You
two
might want
elementary
four
school.
Parents.
So, having each school represented would make it, quite large, I think. But I'm not sure how you do that.
Well, you could do it by sort of doubling the numbers of stakeholders and faculty members. 2 parents from each community, 2 faculty members from each community. So that's 4. No, that's 4 and 4. That's 8. 3 members of the school committee would be 11. A couple of administrators might take you up to 13. The problem is when it comes time to meet to review applications,
Right.
and to start doing everything, you got 13 schedules. You have 13 schedules to reconcile, and that's what slows the process down.
Yeah, I'm coming off of, being part of hiring committees, and they were so large, and it was really hard to pull the schedules together. It ended up being the chair put a schedule together and said, this is what it will be. And if you can't, meet most of these meetings, especially the interviewing, then they would expect that person to step down. And some people had to step down off the committee because of that. It was just impossible to try to pull, and for mine, it was over 20, together with all the other meetings that people have. So I just want to make sure we have enough and there's a good representation, but as you said, the more there are, the more difficult it might be for scheduling purposes. Although Zoom makes it a little easier.
Zoom does make it much easier in one sense. And that one sense is nobody has to drive back and forth to the meeting.
Right.
The challenge about Zoom is that, as I may have mentioned before, meetings are running generally about 50% longer than they used to run. Nobody's in a hurry to get home. You're already home.
Right.
So everybody weighs in. I just completed, almost completed work with a 17-member board where things took a very, very, very long time.
If we think of this, if we have a parent from each school, then automatically we're going to have some representation from both towns. Because you're from Lauria White, they're going to tend to be from Shirley, and Page Hilltop, they're going to tend to be from Air. So that might clear up the balance, the community balance.
Either that or you just instruct everybody that the process needs to be expedited and people need to make themselves available.
So
That's a condition of being appointed to the search committee.
Mm-hmm.
So just we had 14 on the last one for where Dr. Malone was hired. 4 from the schools, Mrs. Akey, Mr. Gubalini, Ms. Stahl, Ms. Bischoff, Ms. Saucier, a student, and then the 2 community members. So we were at 14. We had actually no school committee members last time. So there's just that for comparison.
We had 2 future school committee members.
We just didn't know it yet.
Well, there are 2 schools of thought about that. One that says leave the school committee out, and the other which is the school that I argue for, which is school committee member presence is essential so that the school committee's interests are always represented at the table. The search doesn't run away from you.
Okay.
So, Madam Chair, can I ask a question?
Please
so, Glenn, I know that your organization is involved in a lot of this. I'm wondering if you can tell us what the pool looks like right now as far as openings for superintendents, candidates, and whether you would recommend us going ahead with a full search or looking to an interim route at this point in the school year.
That's a tough question to answer. I would say the weight is moving towards the interim scenario but not the preponderance of weight. So you're just about at the gate where it's going to be a little too late, but you're not there yet.
So if we had a search committee established, let's say by the beginning of March, would that still work?
It would work if you started advertising quickly, closed your advertisements at the end of the month, so we can recruit candidates, and then begin immediately the interview process, followed by the school committee's process, and have that done during the month of April.
Okay.
And there's nothing saying that we can't start a search, do a search, and then decide that we want to go interim.
That's correct. You could do that if you don't like the pool of candidates and you decide, you know, we want to reshuffle this deck and come back again in September. That's a decision that you should be free to make. Just so that you understand, if you seek assistance from a search consultant, you should make sure that nobody pays anybody anything until you have a signed contract with your next superintendent. That's the best guarantee you have that no one will walk away from you or try to force a candidate on you that you don't want.
Pay after the services. Jim, did you want to say something?
No, no, it seems pretty clear. I think there's, I mean, I think with the situation and timing we have, I mean, there are a lot of, it's kind of a rushed sequence, but as Joe pointed out, you know, we're not fixed into making a decision if we don't like what the pool of candidates is. So we are going to need a superintendent. So I think probably the sooner we start down the path, the better off we're all going to be.
Yeah, I would suggest that that's what we should do. We should start as soon as possible with the search, and knowing that if we don't find a suitable candidate, then we can go the interim route and do you know, a more extensive search after that.
Okay. Is that a motion, Mr. Leone?
I can make that a
I would
motion.
recommend that if
Who was saying something? I'm sorry.
I said I could make that a motion.
no, I was,
Jim, we're losing you.
You hear?
Mr. Quinty?
Yes?
Yeah, he seems to be frozen.
I'm good.
Okay.
So I would like to make a motion that we start the search committee going forward as soon as possible, with the understanding that if we don't get a candidate that we like, that we find suitable to our needs, that we go the interim route and then extend the search after that.
Thank you, Mr. Leone. Is there a second to that motion? Michelle, is that a second?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so it's been motion and seconded. Michelle Chow, would you please call the roll?
Oh, sorry, hold on, I have questions.
Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon, Jonathan.
Do we need to have a shorter term meeting to procure a vendor for this? Do we need to, how do we want to handle that? Personally, I'm of the feeling that we need to put it out to somebody to help us.
I think that's a separate issue, because I think also we need to figure out who will be on the search committee, the number of people. So I think those are two separate issues that I think we definitely need to discuss.
Can I suggest something to you, if I may?
Please.
We may want to have a conversation with the chair about just prior to doing anything, without making any arrangements or commitments to anyone, sort of getting organized quickly and identifying the materials you'll need to proceed so that you don't lose time once you complete your due diligence looking for someone to help you.
So then.
We do that for any district that is in the process of transition. So that's a regular service that any member district will get.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor and it's seconded. Is there any more comments or questions from anyone?
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Michelle?
Mr. DeForge,
Aye.
Mrs. Granger,
Aye.
Mr. Leone,
Aye.
Mr. Quinty,
Aye.
Mrs. Reshoots,
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
That's a unanimous vote to go forward looking for a permanent position. I have contacted NASDAQ and MASC as far as as all their services, and they seem to be very equivalent in a lot of ways because this is what they do. And the MASC price is a little bit less than, and of course they have a lot of extra services to us right away because we're a member of the group. So I would suggest that since we want to move forward, that perhaps we move forward and with MASC tonight. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that or ideas?
Madam Chair, you would probably want to have this discussion without.
Oh, you have a thick skin.
I've been called a lot of things in my life, so nothing really bothers me. But districts prefer to, you can have this discussion and just let me know what you want to do, one way or the other.
Okay.
Makes
So
sense.
do we need an executive session to do that?
You can't do it in executive session.
No, it's a
You
public
can't.
session.
No.
Okay, we just need you not here.
So I'll excuse myself and you can check in with me in the morning and see whether you need any type of assistance at all and
Okay.
check.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Thank
Glenn.
you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
everybody.
much.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you. Thanks for coming
Appreciate all
tonight.
your help.
I would say that we need someone, we need one of those services because we need to guarantee that we're getting as many qualified candidates, especially around diversity, in terms of getting diverse candidates for this position, and I think that doing it on our own, however that works, probably not as successful as having MASC or NESDAQ help us out. They have a pool.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think MASC is probably the way to go because they're already providing services to the school committee.
And Joe, you dealt with them before when we were doing the other search. Probably.
Okay, it's a little blurry as to how that was. I knew somebody was in there running it. I'm not sure where they were from, but it was good. It was
So
well done. They brought us Mary.
Yeah.
They brought us Mary. So I want them back.
Can I, Chairman, Madam Chair, was Michael Gilbert. Mike Gilbert ran your search
Okay.
last time. He's since retired, but you had asked me my perspective, and I thought they did a good job from my perspective as a candidate.
Usually you don't hear that perspective, so I think that's a good way to go. So best practices, we do know what the price of each group is, and we can record that. I'm kind of at a roadblock right now. I did check to see what best practices were for getting a committee, and the recommendation was that we would ask for people to send in a request to be on it, and then we would go through and have a deadline for them turning in. Since we want to move forward, it would seem like something like the towards the like, I think I don't have a calendar. I'm sorry, somebody help me. Like the 22nd of February by close of business. If all the interest letters were in, then we could start looking at them. And like you say, Joe, make sure that it's balanced.
Yeah.
So
Go
sorry,
ahead,
Joe.
Cheryl. No, go ahead, Cheryl.
if we say, we need a good solid 2 weeks, then I would suggest having all letters in by the 22nd, which is a Monday.
Mhm.
Oh, wait a minute. When do we meet? We meet on the 17th. Would the
We can
16th?
pull a meeting anytime we want.
Okay.
We don't meet that week because it's school vacation.
Oh, right.
So we
Do
would
you
meet on the
remember how-
24th.
Yeah, we can meet on the 24th.
Okay, so maybe having any letters of interest by no later than the 22nd. So then we have a couple of days to look at it before we possibly meet.
Okay.
That would give a couple of weeks is enough time, do you
I
think?
think it's enough time for people to get their letter in if they're interested in it.
Yeah.
And Michelle Town will be lucky enough to receive those. So it'll be all in one place.
But I think we need to define, well, maybe I don't know. We need to define what we're looking for, right?
Yeah, what the committee's
Yeah.
going to be made of. And are we?
Not so much what they're going to be made of, but who has an interest in doing it, first of all.
Well, I know, but we still
We
need,
wanna be
like,
reading that
what
out.
are the numbers, how many parents, how many community members, how many teachers, staff, we need to make that clear. And are we all done with the search generator? Are we going to go with mask?
Search
Do we need to vote on that?
I would think we should vote on that.
I'll make a motion that we enlist the services of Mask for the superintendent search.
Second.
Double second.
Joe got it.
Anybody else with questions?
I
or
win.
comments? Michelle, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. DeForge,
Aye.
Mrs. Granger,
Aye.
Mr. Leone,
Aye.
Mr. Quinty,
Aye.
Mrs. Reshoots,
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Okay, and that is unanimous. Thank you. Do we want to proceed and outline what we want for makeup in that committee?
Yeah,
We
Joyce.
seem to have been discussing it already.
All right, Joyce, I'd like to, I'm kind of superstitious. So I kind of,
13 is not a good number, right?
no, well, I think 14 worked good last time. And Joe and John are the hot hand. So, they did such a great job last time. I would definitely lasso them in. So that gets us down to 12 more. We can talk about what the makeup of the next 12. I think somebody said last time we had a student involved. We had,
Yes.
but I think we should stay with the categories that we had last time, if possible, and just look to fill that.
I would agree with that.
So
we
you're
can-
saying no school committee member?
Well,
No,
we'd
Joe
have
and John.
Joe and
Right.
John.
Oh,
We're going to recreate the perfect storm that brought us Mary.
That's right. That's it.
Nothing
Daughter
can
of Mary.
deviate. We should probably find all those staff members. Everybody has to be the same. That student has to come back.
That's right. There you go. That works. I'm down with that. So if we remember
Okay, 7
the
years later, that probably won't work.
yeah. Do Jonathan or Joe, do you remember the makeup of the committee, list the names? I mean, we had a student.
Yeah, hold on, I can tell you, because I actually have
Kruger.
a text message.
Kruger,
had-
I can't remember
I
the
think you
person.
have to have a parent from each school and you have to have a teacher from each school.
I would think
That's your
so,
basis.
yes.
the last time you did it, did you get a parent from each school that was interested?
Yep.
I mean,
It-
you did.
It seemed more
I don't
like,
think we
seemed
had
like
any
there
school
were
committee
more
members
from
on
Page
it.
Hilltop. I wasn't from any school. I mean, I
Right.
was a grandfather, not a parent, so.
And you could have citizens in the town who would request to be on it.
So
And the
I
Jonathan,
would
who
say
was on it?
parents would be.
All right, hold on a second here. So we had Mary Beth Hamill, Mrs. And I'm sorry, I'll use these names because it's what I have on my list.
Yeah.
Building principal representative, Mrs. Akey, which she would have been assistant principal at the time. Teacher representatives were Miss Saucier, I'm sorry, Miss Bischoff from Laura White, Ms. Stahl from the middle school, and Mr. Gubellini from the high school. And then the teacher representatives, I mean, the parent representatives, one from each building. And it looks like we actually split those, Air and Shirley. So Laura White and Paige Hilltop are obvious, right? But Miss Kilcummins was from the middle school and Ms. Martinez was from the high school at the time. So there was that.
One's Air and one's Shirley, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll have to
Yep.
get your letters of interest in. You may want to make a decision as to which person for what. Maybe just draw it out of the hat, who knows?
So hold on, let me see if I can do this so y'all can see it. I'll share my screen if I'm allowed to. Share, notepad, share. All right, can you guys see that in a normal font? Or do I need to make it bigger?
That's good.
No, that's good.
Good.
All right. So hopefully that makes it a little easier.
Good.
So
Teachers?
do we want to say teachers or staff?
Staff from each,
Staff.
one from each building?
Staff from each building.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
then
that's
10?
10. That's
10.
10.
And then 2 administrators, like a principal and a nut, you know.
I'd like to see a student.
Student.
There
yeah,
is, oh, there wasn't a student. Okay, student.
We didn't have a student, Jonathan?
We did.
did.
It was Miss Kruger was the student rep.
I would even say 2 students and 2 administrators, or here, I'm trying to get away from the number 13. Or vice versa.
So wait,
Um,
4,
This is-
11.
10, 11, 12.
Just 12.
So you could say 2 students, 2 administrators. Would that get us 14?
There you go. That works.
Yep.
That works.
So question is, do we want community members at large in place of?
Yeah,
Going
I
on?
was gonna say community members at large, like,
See, I disagree with that because if you didn't have any issues with getting parents to be interested, I would hate to turn a parent away for somebody who doesn't have children in the school.
yeah, I
system.
wasn't meaning just any, I mean, community member, like, you have 4, but then maybe, you know, like 2 others that were just from wherever. So a total of 6 parents to make the 14.
Well, the other
Yeah.
thing is, it would be the person who is going to manage this. I know she did a good job before, Mary Beth Hamill should be on there as a managing person, perhaps, if you want to call it that. Supervisor in your way.
So
15.
So Mary Beth was on it, but it was Ms. Bischoff that actually chaired the.
Did she?
Yeah. Thank
she
you to
still with
the Times Free Press, the Public Spirit article I found.
Is she still a teacher?
I actually like this. I think that,
Yeah, this is
you know,
fine.
I think to your point, Joe, about the community member, you know, you were a community member, but you are also a vested community member as a
Yeah.
grandparent. So,
Right.
I mean,
And a coach.
and a coach. So I think we could, you know, argue that if we didn't have, I mean, you know, you
actually
could
want a
fit in that
community
parent
person.
category.
Right.
Yeah, and my point, if we had to get up to 14, I didn't want just community members that were just community members. Someone who
Right.
would put, like, if there was six or 8 people that put in their names as parents, and we only picked 4, but you know, maybe we could pick 2 others at large. But this looks fine right here.
Yeah.
I think students,
I
administrators,
don't see
I
why we
think
have
that
to have
looks fine.
14, if you want to know the truth.
I actually like the idea of there being 2 students so that they each kind of
Right.
have each other. I think it can be kind of intimidating for a student to be
Yeah.
working with adults, so it'd be nice for them to have a
Yeah.
partner in crime.
I agree.
Right.
Jonathan
agree.
is a scary dude. I think that's good to have that extra person.
Yeah, agreed.
So
this would be-
here's
this
an
is our
interesting
ideal.
here's an interesting question about the students, real quick. Sorry, Joyce, I didn't cut you off.
That's all right.
Should we do one from the senior class and one from the junior class?
No.
Or
Don't restrict it. You might have a great freshman.
Sure.
One there, one Shirley.
Nope.
I think we
First of all,
could
they
do.
have to put in a letter of interest.
okay.
I think we leave it open-ended. I would agree with that. And then
Yeah.
see the pool.
Right.
Okay, so maybe this is the hard work.
Yep.
So
It's a go.
if we could put notices out from the central office that we would like letters of interest by February 22nd, then we can meet at the end of the last week in February and be ready to go.
Right.
I will speak to Mask and tell them that they're chosen and have them start doing everything else that we need to do, like collecting. You need to have we need to generate a description of the district to give to them and a few other things. I think we can manage that in the next couple of weeks.
So the letters of interest would go to Michelle Town?
Yes,
And does it need to be a written letter or is email?
written letter.
Why? Why can't it be
think-
an email?
Either.
I think email.
Email is fine.
Okay, both, either.
Yeah.
But the deadline is by the end of business, February 22nd. After
I
that, they
don't
will not
think-
be accepted.
I don't think we want to make it any harder by making someone put something in writing and mail it or whatever. I mean,
Oh, God, that'd be terrible.
Right.
Email is
it would be
fine.
terrible. Stamps are expensive.
Yeah, but Michelle, you do legal documents in writing, don't you?
Not always.
No, you can do DocuSign now.
Yeah.
Yeah, electronic signatures count in my world.
Yeah.
Not for
Mine too.
everything, but for some things.
But the deadline is secure.
So-
And because we can't just keep going on and on.
Joyce, will there be a press release going out from our committee to all the district families and district staff announcing our decision to move forward and to get these letters in or request in?
Okay, so today is Tuesday. So if we could, would it be possible, Mary and Michelle, to have something issued by Friday?
Sure, we can do that. If
Okay.
there's anything you want us to write in it, specifically, if you could please send it to Michelle and we can send it out.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
Michelle Town, I will send you this list so you don't have to grab it.
Well,
14 people we have.
I put it in the minutes, but yeah, if you want to send it to me, great.
I mean, we're gonna be sorting it later, so I wouldn't put those categories in there necessarily. I would just throw it open and see what we get.
I think we kind of have to be clear with what our categories are, so there's
Yeah, the
no
categories,
confusion.
but not the numbers necessarily.
One each. I think the 14 and the cat and what we have listed there, we should stick to what we got.
Yeah, we're going
Yeah,
to,
I
but you don't say that when you're sending out a notice for people to put in letters of interest.
I kind of disagree. I would think people
Oh,
need to be
you say
clear
from the
that,
high school, from the staff, from the parents, right?
Mhm. I think we want to be very clear that these are the categories we're having, and if you're a parent, you know that you're competing against a pool of 3,400 other parents. They should know that up front. That says
You don't feel bad, right?
we want all the input that we can have, but there's math involved, and we're going to do our best. But we're going to fill each one of these categories as listed, and we're not going to get in a situation where we go like, hey, you know what? We had 4 really great teachers put in, and I want to get all 4. We're not going to deviate from what we put out in print. I think we just stick to what we have, and if we can get our committee formed that way.
Okay, does everybody agree? Is that the consensus of the committee? I
Mhm.
don't hear any problems, so sounds good.
I guess just to finalize the list, so we are saying two school committee members, or are we switching those out for at large at the community?
2 school committee members.
Fair enough.
Okay. All right, I think, does this do it? don't think there's anything else we need to vote on at this point.
No,
Right?
No,
good.
I'd just like to make sure that we encourage there to be diversity on this committee. And
Well,
and
Joe,
please-
you don't have any hair and Jonathan does, so I think that works it out.
but I was drying my hair. So anyway,
You burnt it out.
I just want to encourage the community members, parents, we really would like to have diversity on our committee. So, please apply.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we will, I think this does it, and I don't see anything else. If I've missed it, please catch me. We would move on to new business. Item B, the presentation of pool testing by Dr. Malone, Mr. Plunkett, Director of Finance, and Mrs. Payne, our nurse leader. They have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mike, for bringing up the PowerPoint. So yes, I want to thank Renee, of course, and Bill Plunkett, though they have been integral to organizing and researching, bringing pool testing to the district. Next slide, please, Mr. Tebow. And of course, our mission is to provide a high quality education in a safe, respectful, and inclusive environment where every student develops the skills, character, and core values needed to graduate and become a productive member of global society. Next slide. So what is pool testing? It's a strategy to screen for COVID-19. It involves a nasal swab of a group of 10 individuals and sending the specimens to a laboratory for screening of COVID-19. This method increases the number of individuals that can be tested at one time and allows the district to screen regularly for COVID-19. Next slide. Why is this important? It allows asymptomatic positive individuals to be identified. Close contacts can be traced and quarantine can start sooner. It prevents spread in the greater community. It provides peace of mind for teachers and families. Evidence that our anti-COVID measures are working, and it provides additional data to inform future policy revisions. Next slide. The partnership with DESE. So I had brought pool testing to the school committee a while ago. And we initially started looking at a company that we actually were matched with, CIC. And then DESE was embarking on providing this support in this rollout with districts. So we decided to partner with DESE, and this is a 6-week launch by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and it's fully funded through March 28th, 2021. And following the funded period, the district may choose to continue to implement pool testing through grant funding. The testing is free to all families and staff. Sorry, I just wrote myself a note. Is it mandatory for my child? No. Pool testing is completely voluntary for families and staff. Parents have the option to have their children participate, and all parents will provide and must provide written consent for their children to be tested. Consent forms. The Department of Education has provided a whole cadre of resources, which has made it very easy. So it is confidential. Students' privacy will be maintained. The students will only participate in the pool testing if a consent form has been received from the parent or guardian caretaker granting permission. The consent form grants permission for the pool testing sample in the antigen follow-up test. And I included a couple of links that you could click on at your leisure, but we've looked at both the sample student and staff consent forms and have decided that we would use them as provided by the Department of Education. Next slide, please. So how will the students be tested? It'll be in-person students, and they'll be tested on the in-person day. So the Panther students will be tested on Monday, and the Prize students will be tested on Tuesday. And it's important that this testing program is not available to fully remote students. Next slide. How often are students and staff tested? It will be administered weekly on Mondays and Tuesdays with a start date of Monday, February 22nd, 2021 and Tuesday, February 23rd. We really we had an ambitious goal of implementation beginning this Monday. But Renee and I talking today, it's just too ambitious. We haven't received our starter kits yet. We need to work with the principals on setting up the testing sites in their schools and such. So we decided today that when we roll something out, we want it to be as seamless as possible. So we pushed it out to after the February break. Next slide, please. What happens next? So after the specimen is collected, they are sent to a laboratory for testing. The district will be notified of the pool results within 24 to 48 hours. So when the Panther students and any staff test on Monday, our expectation would be that we would get those results by end of the day Tuesday, early on Wednesday. If the pool tests negative, there's no further action. So there are 10 specimens in a pool. And if the pool tests positive, all of the individuals in the pool will be retested with a BinaxNOW rapid antigen diagnostic test. Next slide, please. What is a BinaxNOW rapid antigen diagnostic test? It is a follow-up test to determine which individual in the pool is positive. It is a nasal swab, just like the pooled sampling test. The test results are provided within 15 minutes of the test. The individuals who test positive will be required to follow, the individual or individuals will be required to follow the Board of Health quarantine procedures. Next slide, please. How will the antigen test be administered? It will be administered by the school nurse as soon as possible after the positive test results are received. Again, the results are received within 15 minutes. The family or staff member in the positive pool would be notified immediately, and then all follow-up test results will be reported to the Department of Public Health. This is only one piece of the puzzle. We must continue to be diligent, wear masks, social distancing, hand washing, sanitizing, cleaning, and then COVID-19 screening is the next piece of our puzzle. And of course, I will add that waiting for our teachers to, in phase 2 to be vaccinated. So this is a logistical overview. So the testing will be implemented in all 4 schools for the 6-week period beginning on March 22nd. Actually, it'll actually be for 5 weeks because we're not starting on the 8th, but those are just, the actual swab is administered privately behind a screen by the school nurse. So we're looking at our school stages. So that way we have the curtain and then students can, walk, or staff can walk behind the curtain. And if they're taking the test, it will be administered. If not, they will wait a few seconds and they'll walk through, and then that's how it will remain confidential. So the next bullet says that for students that do not test, they will still pass through the privacy screen to retain confidentiality. Testing will begin first thing in the morning. Staff and students will be called down for testing by classroom cohorts. So remember, each testing pod is 10 students or staff. And one of the things, obviously, is we wouldn't want more than 1 to 2 teachers in a testing pod because of the number of teachers that could technically, be out if they tested positive. Individuals will be swabbed by the nurse, which will take approximately 10 seconds per individual. And we anticipate each cohort to take about 10 minutes. So a cohort or pod of 10 minutes. Next slide, please. Once the testing is complete, the specimens will be delivered by a courier to the Broad Institute in Cambridge, Mass. So right now, the Broad Institute, I think, is it Bill, the Broad Institute, they provide the courier at this time?
The vendor for
CIC, yeah.
testing company.
Yeah, sorry. So the testing company we're going with is a company called CIC. So for the partnership with DESE during this time, they will provide the courier. The Broad Institute will process and notify Renee Payne of any positive pools within 24 to 48 hours. The individuals in the pool will be contacted to schedule the antigen test. So for example, if we got the Monday results back Tuesday night or early Wednesday morning, those individuals in that pool, if it was positive, would be contacted and then they would be tested on Thursday. So our Monday students, our Panthers attend Mondays and Thursdays, and our Pride group attends Tuesdays and Fridays. Pool testing provides surveillance testing capabilities to schools, meaning that students and staff are not required to quarantine unless they develop symptoms. So, somebody could be tested and then that same day come down with symptoms, and that they would have to quarantine, or until there was a positive result for an individual from the antigen test. So in other words, any of the individuals that test, there is no quarantining until we get the positive test result of that pod of 10. Then the very next day, so we're anticipating Monday students would be tested on Thursday, because remember, Wednesday's a remote learning day. If we go with the 24 to 48 hours, the Tuesday, the Pride group could actually be tested on Thursday as well, if there's a positive, given the time frame, or we could do the antigen testing on Friday. All the testers will be in full PPE. So they will wear a mask, use gloves and gowns, wear a gown, and then they have the option if they want to wear a mask and a shield together, but it's not required. But we want to make it available to our nurses if they so choose. Next slide, please. So the nasal swab is very gentle. It's a Q-tip-like instrument, and it's inserted into each nostril less than an inch and is rotated 5 times in each nostril. On Monday, Mr. Plunkett and Mrs. Payne, we went to Harvard. Harvard's been doing this testing. They partnered with CIC on their own. They started right after, I think, the holiday break. And so we observed their testing site, and we spoke to those that were testing. The principal actually is the one that checks students in and makes sure there is a permission slip and consent from the family. And then they had the school nurse there, and then they had an EMT. So they had 2 testers, which we're trying to, Mr. Plunkett's going to contact EMTs to see if we can get a second tester. Permission slips will be mailed out next Monday. This will be all electronic and must be returned electronically by close of day on Wednesday, 2/10, so that the nurses, Renee and I, will be able to get the testing set up for Monday after vacation. We understand this is a quick turnaround time, but we're presenting to the parents tomorrow night. So, we actually, we didn't take that statement out. We were thinking we were going to start on the 8th. So I think it gives parents enough time, and we just ask that, please be patient, as this is new and it will take a few weeks to perfect once we begin testing. We're all in this together. Next slide. So informational meetings tomorrow. We're holding a meeting with all staff at 2 p.m. Remember, tomorrow is our remote day. It's our early release day. So I've often had meetings with staff on our remote days. And then we're hosting a meeting for elementary parents tomorrow night at 6 p.m., followed by a informational meeting with the middle school, high school families at 6:45 tomorrow night. And I think the next slide is questions.
Sorry, does anyone have anything?
Nope.
I guess my only sorry, I'm sorry, Joyce, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask what the feedback was from Harvard, how that's sort of gone, and were they able to give you any tips to make it better, or?
Well, I'll speak, and then I'll open up to Bill and Renee. It's gone very well. Of course, the first week is the most difficult, just logistically in calling students down, but they said it goes very quickly. And they have the system. We saw the system. The system is provided to us by CIC, who is the company that provides us the kits and the technical support. Bill or Renee, would you like to add anything?
Well, I think they said they had 3 positive pools since they've been doing it. And they said the contact tracing was one of the things that they took a little bit of time. One of the nurses would contacting all the families, but that was the only real concern they had, or issue they had a concern about.
Renee? And I would add that, Renee and I have been doing contact tracing now for months. And it can be tricky, and she can speak more to it because she's the main contact. She contacts the families, she contacts the staff. But we have been involved in it, and it is a little bit challenging and it's a little bit complex. But what's happening, so that every Friday we report our cases in the district, and we are a low incidence district, and we have not had in-school transmission. And the reason is because we are maintaining that 6 feet and wearing a mask. So when we call, a staff member, I've had to call them myself, and they've been pretty clear that I have not been within contact of anyone within 6 feet for a cumulative of 15 minutes over a course of 24 hours. Would you agree, Renee?
The contact tracing that we've been doing, I feel like we've been working with the Board of Health right along. We've made phone calls immediately. I feel like because of our efforts on contact tracing, it's really prevented any spread within the school. We've done a really, really great job on that.
Dr. Malone, do you have any idea on what percentage of the students or teachers at Bromfield returned permission slips?
Yeah, they have it's a pretty sizable, I don't remember the number that we were given yesterday.
It was about 75% of their staff and students participated.
Okay.
So it was high.
It is high.
Yeah. And pretty much, I think I reported to maybe that some of the districts that did it early on didn't have as high a participation rate. But I think, people have gotten more comfortable with it, and it back to, it is one piece of the puzzle. And, we think about, so, I take the long view on these kinds of things, and the long view is bringing our students back fully in person at some point during this year. That is the hope. I was very public about that recently. And so with teacher vaccinations, with pool testing, and of course, we're seeing our cases going down. I mean, the state today reported, what was it, like 1,900 or something? It was pretty low. And of course, we send out the Erin Shirley cases to you in each week. The case is low. I think last week, I know for a fact, Shirley was below 5%, and Air was just slightly about 6.7, something like that. So we're seeing that. So that's another piece of the puzzle.
So are we looking for grants to fund this after March 28th?
Well, I didn't, so I will tell you that the SR2, I think I've talked about that grant. I think Bill talked about it recently. We're going to get a considerable amount of money. It's actually 1.7 million. And that grant, the RFP just came out, or will be out within a week. We'll all be going to some webinars, and that money will be used the same SR1 was used. It's very broad funding. It's a very broad for its funding source for many things in the district or any district, and we can use that money to pay for it if we decide that we will continue beyond the funding with DESE.
Okay, and what would be the criteria for deciding to continue or not to continue?
Well, I think I would bring it to the school committee and talk with Renee and Bill and I, and just just looking at the conditions on the ground. Again, if taking the long view, the goal is to get students fully in person. If it's 5 days before school ends, and we will continue because it does provide peace of mind, and people feel more confident being in school, that it would be my recommendation to continue.
Okay.
Anyone else?
So can I just ask a quick question? So first of all, I want to thank all of you for Bill, Renee, and Mary for bringing this to us. I think it's great. And also thank you for all your work with the contact tracing. I know it's got to be a tremendous amount of work. And hopefully we're seeing kind of a decline on that work having to happen. So my question is, when you have that pool of 10, if you have one person that's positive, you're going to retest the 10. But only the person that's testing positive is going to have any kind of ramification. We're still going to be keeping everyone socially distant. It's not like that whole group of 10 will have to, quarantine or anything like that, correct? It's only the one or whoever is testing positive the second time around.
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to just be clear about that.
Yeah, sure. Renee, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, that is very true. So the way it's sort of explained is that when you do a pool of 10, you don't really know who's positive in there at that moment. So you're not quarantining or keeping them alienated, so to speak, or isolated until you can narrow it down to see who really actually is infectious. So that is true. They're allowed to ride the bus. They're able to come to school. There is no, because honestly, when you think of it that way, they would be coming to school normally anyways. It could be an asymptomatic student. So it would, we're just catching them earlier.
Right. Okay. Great. Thank you.
I just wanted to add, we would encourage the families to get a PCR test. If they have a second test is positive, the rapid test is positive, we would encourage that families have a PCR test for their student.
Yeah, are they finding that the rapid test is reliable, or like, have you heard from Harvard whether they found any false positives that way, or?
We did. It depends on the viral load, how you're carrying the virus and how contagious you are. And I think the rapid test is better off with a higher viral load.
Right.
So we are encouraging the PCR test for the family.
Regardless of whether
if they're positive with the antigen rapid test, we would suggest that they have a PCR test at home.
Even if they're even though, like, would you suggest it the first? Oh, you don't know who's positive. Forget it. Okay.
And the one thing I have to add to this PowerPoint is that anyone who's had COVID in the last 90 days would not be eligible to participate in this.
Okay.
Particularly the antigen test. So
yeah,
while we keep saying students and doing the various groups of students, and I'm assuming that staff would be included in those students, and then do we have provisions to do the rest of the staff in the school by groups?
Yeah, we would staff, if a teacher brings it, so what's happening, a teacher would bring down, say, they have 8 students and themselves, and they decide to test. Like I said, everybody goes through, and whether they test or not is confidential to the tester. And but teachers, any teacher who wants to get tested, it's voluntary, and they may test. All administrators, anyone, this is eligible for all of our district, except for students that are in the full remote learning, and that's a requirement from DESE. And those who have had COVID in the last 90 days are not eligible to test.
So I just want to be sure I'm saying this right. So all students and any staff would be up for testing, and does it extend to people? And I hate to say any group because it sounds like I'm singling them out, but let's say, does it include bus drivers, or are they being tested through the bus company?
That's a good question. No, I don't think we. You know what? I don't want to say. I haven't read anything about it or heard anything about it. Renee, have you?
It's something we could certainly ask.
Yeah.
I know all staff, custodial staff, anybody we would be willing to test. I'm not sure about the bus company.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that I think when we get to opening schools in full, this is certainly going to be a question, and that's going to be involved with limiting or unlimiting, finally, the amount of kids we can put on a bus and stuff. So I don't know what the bus companies are doing. But this has to come into it. Because they.
Well,
would be-
that, Joyce, we'll look into it. I mean,
Yeah, just
you know,
curious.
I wouldn't have a problem with it, but we certainly can make the inquiry and find out. Because we are going by Dusty's guidance. And I know that we had a meeting with the commissioner last week and they are going to be issuing some new transportation guidance and such.
Okay, good.
When in the next few weeks, I guess, but that's a good question. I wrote it down and took note of that for sure.
I mean, contact is contact, so.
I know the commissioner's meeting, we needed to inquire with the bus company that if eventually someday or some week this year, we can go back to full in person, that they have the capacity. And he also wanted us to remind the bus company that they need to be keeping the windows on the bus open like an inch. And I think that's one of the things that it's happened around the state around opening windows. I think people envision that you have to open windows, halfway or 3/4, but really it's just cracks, in windows, just let some fresh air circulate in. And I think we probably all do it in our home, right? Even no matter how chilly it is, open the window a little bit to circulate that fresh air.
Well, thank you very much. This is really awesome and it's certainly a step forward, which is we need those steps to get there. So this is super. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. This is great.
Thanks.
Reaching up. Thank you. Moving on to number 7, which is superintendent's report.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to inform the school committee, and I apologize that I didn't send a communication yesterday because I typically do. But it's been a busy few days and with the weather and preparing for this and such. But yesterday morning, we were informed around 6:20, 6:30 that we had a pipe burst at the middle school. It was for those of you that have been in the middle school, it was down by the art room. And initially, the custodian had reported to open the building. The heat had to be shut off, but the heat had been on all night, so the building wasn't too chilly. We weren't sure of the water, but shortly thereafter notified that the water was, a couple inches deep, and that we wouldn't be able to allow students to access that area of the building where all the academic classrooms are, or go upstairs. So I quickly had to switch gears and send a emergency call out to those families that we would pivot to remote learning for the half day yesterday. And I'm happy to report that the pivot to remote learning yesterday was seamless. And thanks to all that, the middle school administration, Bill went over to the building in the morning. I reported, Charlie, Bob Briggs was there, and we quickly were able to call in a contractor, and the pipe has been repaired, and the heat is up and running, and the middle school will open as planned on Thursday. I had talked to you about a winter walk, and we were going to plan the winter walk this week. Well, I need to say no more. So we're putting it off till Thursday and Friday, right before February vacation. It's always nice to do something engaging and fun for kids and staff. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. So Thursday would be the Panther cohort, and then Friday would be the Pride cohort. So I'll give you more details on that when we get, as I said, Steve Kendall is organizing that. Just a reminder that Monday, we have a budget presentation to the Shirley Board of Selectmen at 6 p.m. And we will get out the Zoom link, and we will post the meeting as we typically do in case we have a quorum at that meeting. And then I do have a sports update that's been submitted to us by Mr. Kendall. And it's a little bit long, but the boys and girls basketball seasons have been going quite well. The boys are 3-1 with the busy schedule ahead, with 6 games over the next 2 weeks. And despite having a roster made up mainly of sophomores, the team is playing like an experienced group. Junior Sean Hebert is demonstrating excellent leadership skills, while sophomores Cam Marshall, Brian Holmes, Ryan Marchand, Michael Bashara, and Robbie Weeks have played extremely well. Coaches Rick Kilpatrick and Corey Lowe are doing a great job with the team. Of course, the games are live streamed. I actually watched the girls' game the other day. It was really fun to watch. So the games are live streamed on the ASRSD Athletics YouTube page. Senior night will honor lone senior Nick Dutton on Thursday, February 11th. The girls are 7-0. The girls are rocking it out this year with 4 games to play. Thanks to outstanding play from everyone, notably Steph Hart, Tori Salmon, Mindy Brees, Cheyenne Zakira, Jenny Clifton, Leslie Walker, and freshman Ava Murphy and Tess Arakalian. Special thanks to JV coach Steve Belanger and volunteers Rob Hart, Elise Fredericks, and Mike Belanger for their help and dedication throughout the first few weeks. Again, the game is live streamed. I think they were supposed to play they're going to play Thursday against West Boylston. JV at 4, the varsity at 6. Special thanks to Mike Tebow and Anthony Altieri for setting up the camera and getting the live stream going. Senior night will be Monday, February 8th, following a 4 p.m. game with Tohoto. Steve also thanks Erica Crawford, Jamie Gibbons, Victoria Hill, Kelly Martian, Justin Lamoureux, and Nathan Hebert for their work on the scorer's table, breaking down and setting up the gym and filming the live stream. And thank you to the school committee for supporting our sports season. It's gone really well, really well. Boys hockey is playing well with a 4-1-1 record. Senior Ian Keane has been outstanding in goal, while Christian Carter is a stalwart on defense. Ryan Strout, Brady Madigan, and Nick Gamble have also been playing well. Preston Campana had the lone goal for the JV team in its opening day win last Sunday. The boys senior night will be tomorrow night at 7:30, so I'm assuming that is Wednesday, and the game will be live streamed on Twitter at Nights Live. The girls hockey team has been playing well. Caitlin Bremer, Anna Simmons, I think Cheryl's daughter, and Erin Gamble are huge contributors to the co-op with Leominster and other schools. The girls will play in Holyoke on Wednesday night. Swimming is 3-0, and several East Shirley students have had great seasons thus far. Our daughter of Mr. Quinty, 2 daughters, Kat Quinty, and I'm not mentioning the other one yet. So senior divers Kat Quinty and Ashley Ostreicher have qualified for sectionals, while swimmers Lorelei Folger, Lily Bluen, and Ciara Quinty have all won events and are set personal bests this season. Folger broke a couple team records in the first meet. The middle school basketball clinic started on January 4 and is going well under the direction of Coach Dallas Neely. Over 30 students are participating in the twice-a-week session, 2 for boys and 2 for girls. Unified bocce continues every Thursday at 2:30, and there is still room for interested students in grades 9 through 12. I asked Mr. Kendall, and I have to go to my phone because he texted me this information today. So I asked about the fall 2 season, and he wrote, based on previous seasons, I would imagine we will be doing, wait a minute. Yeah, sorry, give me 1 second. Okay. Earliest date would be for the fall 2 season to start. It's going to be March 1st. Volleyball, football, unified basketball, and a track practice season outside. We will need to figure out where to practice football for the first few weeks. I think he's looking into using Littleton's field. Everything has been approved by the MIAA, and they will be meeting this Friday to go over league guidelines. And as soon as he gets them, he's going to write them up, and we will send them over to you as soon as the league approves the guidelines. And he does imagine we will be doing more than what the MIA requires, as we have been doing in terms of cleaning, safety, and protocols. And then he wrote, unified basketball will be more of a skill season and not a competitive season. And then lastly, he wrote that 20 ASRSD coaches attended a workshop entitled Sports Can Battle Racism during the 90-minute presentation by the Positive Coaching Alliance. Those 20 coaches explored the power of sports to make a positive change in society when it comes to issues of race. The goal of the workshop was to help more conversations that benefit the staff, students, and school district with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We strive to establish and enhance the building of a sports environment free of hate and discrimination. And on a similar note, members of the high school's DEI initiative group, including students, football coach Jermaine McKenzie, Dr. Maya, Mrs. Wilson, and AD Steve, attended the virtual MIAA DEI Committee Youth Inclusion Summit last week, and it was entitled Generation Z, Moving a New Dream Forward. And lastly, new acceptances to college acceptances at Bridgewater State University and Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. And that completes my report.
Wow.
Dr. Malone, I'd just like to let you know that last night when the message was received that we'd be going to an actual snow day, not remote, that Stock and Dr. Mary Malone went flying way past GameStop. Really, the whole Snapchat thing blew up. You are way past that.
Well, you know, as I said earlier, I don't think you were on yet, Mr. Quinty. I could hear the cheering in Haverhill when I sent out the message at 4:30. We said, "What's all that noise?" I said the Ashbury school community is jumping for joy, and they know at 4:30 today. So, you know, we talk a lot about the social emotional well-being of our staff and students, and this was something that was in the interest as well of the social emotional well-being of our staff and students. And you know, it was a nor'easter, and you know, of course, we had agreed that you know, we would pivot to remote learning on snow days, but I also provided that with the caveat of power outages and wind, and I think a northeaster qualifies for a snow day, so I was more than happy.
That's it. Well played. Well played.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything from anybody else? Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 8, which is ongoing business, the FY22 preliminary budget update and discussion by Dr. Malone and Mr. Plunkett.
Yes, I'm going to let Mr. Plunkett take the lead on this.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Mike, if you could put up 8B, actually download it to Excel, 8B in the agenda or the packet.
Yep, we'll do it. Hold on.
Google Sheets are a little funky.
That's what we talked about today, Mike, remember? The Excel sheet.
Yep, I have it right here.
Great, thank you.
We're at the point in the budget season where the governor has come out with his budget and the Chapter 70 funding has been set January 27th. They both came out. So it impacts our budget for 3 items. Doesn't change any of our totals. Our totals to the budget all remain the same. It all has to do with the assessments. So what I did, this is a little busy, but I put the governor's budget from 127 next to the Air Shirley budget from 120. So you can see where the changes are. The first set of 3 columns in blue is the total assessment, total RLC and operating assessment. So the governor's budget increased the required local contribution by $233,000 over last year. We had plugged in last year's, so now we're going to update the budget for this year's RLC. What that does is normally it would move the same amount into our net school spending above RLC. So it's usually in and out, no difference. So you can see the 233 increase, but we have a $240,000 decrease. That is because the Chapter 70 funding that came out with the governor's budget provides for $7,785 more than we budgeted. So the overall assessment is decreased by that $7,700. The third piece that this affects is the foundation enrollment, and we'll go into that in a minute. Here we have AIR in the pink. It's the same calculation for AIR, governor's budget versus AIR's budget on the 20th. And it shows you that their RLC went up 137,000 and their net school spending decreased 135,000. So they actually had an increase to their assessment of $2,000, but adversely or conversely, Shirley's the last set of 3 columns in green. They have a decrease in their assessment of $9,000. I think you can scroll one more column to the right. You could probably see it on that. There we go. So there's a 9,000 decrease to Shirley. So 9,000 decrease to Shirley plus the 2,000 for air increase. It showed a total increase of the assessment of 77, decrease of the assessment of $7,700 or the chapter 7 increase. Question? Okay, on the second tab, Mike, the foundation enrollment tab. This is the other piece that got changed. We use the October 1 enrollment numbers. Foundation enrollment is, we build it. It's based on our residential students. It's based on kids that choice out, kids that charter out, not vocational, but there's also out of districts that are in special ed settings and pre-K. So the DESC set the foundation enrollment numbers a little bit differently than we had. So we had in our budget 1,659 total students, and the Department of Ed came out with this Chapter 70 funding. They came out with 1,642 students, and it's a slight change. It's 1/100th of a change on our 5-year rolling average. So that's why you see in that comparison worksheet that there were a couple of ins and outs for transportation and capital debt because of that shift in Shirley's favor of going down that 1/100th of a percent. So there was a slight shift in transportation, but it was no net effect because it was in and out. It was an increase to air and a decrease to Shirley. Same thing on the capital debt. So there's the numbers on the foundation enrollment. So those are the 3 changes we have for our budget. You know, we have a long process through the spring. We get the governor, so now we'll go to the House, Senate, Conference Committee, and then hopefully before June 30th, we'll have our budget set. Also, one more piece, we just got our FY20 E&D certified. It came back from the DOR. We have, it's been certified at 688,000. And that is, we can use that in our FY22 budget up until June 30th by adding it in as appropriate. And it can become part of our budget if it's incorporated by the school committee. So that's the budget update for tonight. Any questions, concerns?
Madam Chair, could I just make a couple of comments? Thank you, Bill. And, you know, the E&D access and deficiency, as you know, we have been striving to get it certified early. So great job to Bill for working on it, getting all the documents submitted to DOR. I know that they've become his best friend now. And so no, he did a really good job. And, you know, what is it, February? So really, really happy to have that early because we always get asked for that when we go to the towns with our budget presentations. And just a reminder that our next meeting, March 2nd, is the public hearing, which will be at 6:30. So Michelle has posted it. We have to post it publicly in the newspapers. It's been posted. And the other thing I just wanted to say about enrollment. So a reminder that, so when I was looking at enrollment, some other metrics in the district, and since I started, our enrollment has increased about 3% overall. But we all know all districts and towns have had a decrease in enrollment for this year. And we know why. I've given you those numbers. So I think we saw a decrease of about 79 students overall. And that completes my comments. Thank you.
Just like to say that taking a look at the budget projections here and the E&D, that really, when I take back a look at what we had to navigate last year and some of the unforeseen fiscal demands that we had to be able to post this kind of budget and show that kind of E&D really puts us in a position that I was not expecting at all. You guys worked really hard, and to be able to come across with numbers that look like that is absolutely phenomenal job in an exceptionally difficult year.
Thank you.
I think this is the earliest we've seen E&D.
I think last year we were early.
Yeah.
You gotta give credit where credit is due, Joyce. I think maybe the
My
last couple,
screen is
Bill.
weird.
Yeah, well, we had a few, but,
It was
no,
the
no,
last week of January last year.
yeah, I was gonna say.
Was it?
Yeah.
Good. It's always a big help to know, to be solid on these figures. So very
Right.
good. Good
Well,
job,
you
guys.
know, it's about transparency, because when I first started, the first few years when there was, a few bumps here and there, and so when we didn't have it, but the towns, when they send out this notification, they sent it to the town administrators and such, so they all get this, they all got it today. I could
Right.
actually tell you so they all, both Shirley Selectmen and Air Selectmen, they all got it. Robert Pompey and Mike McGovern.
Didn't hear back from him right away, huh?
It's been, hey, between COVID and now the weather, and I know that Shirley FinCom had canceled their meeting. I know Air Town Hall was closed today, but they did hold their virtual meetings. I think Shirley meets in person. So, when you have weather events, it disrupts a lot. And I know for me as a superintendent, it takes a lot of my time watching the weather and making a decision about yesterday and today. And today was, I will say, today was easy. When I was listening to the news last week and I heard the word Northeaster, I already had made up my mind. It was gonna be a snow day, so anyone, Charlie or Bill, they'll verify that, because I told them last week, I said, we're having a Northeaster, we're having a traditional snow day, period. So I just can't tell anyone. I have to hold these secrets in.
There you go.
And so do we, right?
Yeah,
You gave us a hint,
yeah,
so we had to hold the secret in.
yeah, I did, I know.
No, so, I guess echoing sort of what Jim said too about the budget, great projections going, to be just a little bit off, $7,000 off at the end of the day with pretty much wild cards that you didn't know was coming from the state. Congratulations. Like, this is excellent planning, and good to see that we have a lot of costs that are leveling out and sort of that are nice and we're able to project those costs going up and not have to worry about where to find the money for it. So that's good. Good footing to be on. Yeah. Looks like Joyce might have dropped.
Yeah, where's Joyce? I should say.
Where'd she go?
She had enough.
Well, she froze for a while and then she.
So Cheryl, can you
So
take us
I
to
can,
the next?
yep, I
yeah.
can go on. So we can move on to ongoing business 8B, the Air Shirley Regional School District Regional Agreement, and Mr. Quinty.
Right. So I'm working, I don't know what you guys have. I'm working up the June 19th, 2018 markup. Is that the one you guys have?
I don't see anything in.
No idea.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Did you send the regional agreement to Michelle, Jim?
No, this is one that we had, it was on, I think, in an October meeting. It was in one of the packets in, I'm going to say October or the first meeting in November.
It was in the drive.
Yeah.
Really?
Let me look.
Yeah, I'm looking too. Well, November 3rd was canceled.
Right.
So what did you say?
It's
October?
a June 19th. It's a June 19th, 2018 marked up copy.
I don't see it in the October 1st, but I'll keep looking.
Yeah. Well, it's a big document, so maybe what we should do is that if you want to just send it out to everybody for the next meeting.
Sure.
like I've got the one, I mean, when we checked it out there, I have mostly just minor edits to the work that we did a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I can't find it either.
Yeah, so why don't we just send that out and deal with it at the next meeting?
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sorry.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, Mrs. Chair, I actually just found it and plopped it into the drive for tonight's meeting.
Okay.
All right,
Sorry.
hold on, I'll find it. Yep.
Six one one.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's good. So the types of change, I mean, you can see in that the lines out, this was exhaustively done back then. The types of changes that I'm making are like, say, even in the title, with respect to the formation of a regional school district, I changed formation to operation. In the first paragraph, I changed create to operate.
Is this marked up anywhere, or is this what you're just talking?
No, this is the marked up copy. These are changes when I edit, when I was, the copy that we have there, these are recommendations making to the things that have already, that are in this document now.
Okay,
All
so
right.
at some point, can you provide that so we can look at it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want, well, they're mostly typographical, well, I wouldn't say it's substantive. Can you go back to the title? Just scroll down a little bit, Mike. Right, so the title, see, with agreement between the towns of Air and Shirley with respect to the formation of regional school district. I just recommend that we change the word formation to operation because we're already formed. And this has to deal with how we relate to each other. It's a minor change, it's esoteric, but I think it's accurate.
It's funny that we didn't, it's funny we didn't pick that up the first time around when we did this 2 years ago. 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't find it 2 years ago either. It just sort of skated right by it. And then in the second line, we get rid of the word create and just change it to operate.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then on the next page, if we go to section 3, paragraph B. Okay. Since we're on 100 years of suffrage, I thought we would change it based on the one person, one vote principles instead of the one man, one vote principles.
Fair.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if we go to section in this paragraph I in the same section.
It's the election of committee officers.
Yes. Yeah, I just thought it was wordy. If you get down to the second sentence, I thought the entire segment that starts with on the fourth line, for example, and ends in future years, it's down about 4 sentences. That whole thing just seems to be going nowhere. Everybody knows what we're doing at this point, and I don't think we need examples anymore. It doesn't really add anything to the substantive things that are in that paragraph.
Okay.
All right. Then I went, everything else is good till we get to, let's see, section 6, paragraph, I guess it would be C, capital costs. Yep, right there. I was just going to ask Bill, if you take a look at that first sentence, Billy, if those in the 7,000 DESE function codes, do those codes ever change?
No, those are just signify construction or renovation projects.
Okay, good. That's good then. That's fine. Then we get to everything else is looking fine. Okay, then we get to the one that that gets most of the discussion is section 10, the incurring of debt. Okay, yeah, right there. And really, I mean, I don't know how deep we want to get into this tonight. There's, I'm sure Joyce remembers, and I'm sure that Michelle remembers. There's a long history behind this paragraph. That and what I'm looking to do is to have this paragraph accurately represent what we have done for any capital debt, which is basically just the beginning of the paragraph. So we would use Chapter 71, Section 16, and a process that appears in subsection D will be followed, and I would strike the remainder of the paragraph.
Sorry, my whole computer froze. I beg your pardon.
Okay.
Joyce.
It just
And that's
went blank.
And I had no other, and the last one I had was on.
Can I just ask a quick question on this part? So you want to strike out all that because it's covered under Chapter 71, Section 16?
Well, no, what it is the two ways that we have that are currently in it are subsection D, which basically says if we come up with a plan for capital improvement somewhere, large capital improvement. Under D, you send it to the towns review it and they take whatever action, and then you move along from there. In subsection N, it's the district-wide vote without caveat. And then based on the district-wide vote, the towns have to figure out what they want to do to pay for it.
Okay.
So section N is the way we've done the high school and are attempting to do the Fields project as we are currently on.
Well, except that we're really de facto D, because in both instances, the school committee elected to put a provision on that would allow each town would get to vote independently.
So this subsection D is the way that it's working for right now.
Well, it's only working that way because the school committee put the caveat that each town would get to decide independently.
Yeah, but it's actually in the agreement.
Well, and no, in the agreement currently, it's N.
Oh,
so
this is a suggested change to make it subsection D.
Oh, hold on.
Yes.
So hold on. Let's take a step back.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Let's take a step back. When we reviewed this last time, what you see stricken through right now is what was there before. So yes, it's a hard read. It's not pretty.
Right.
Now, so there were, as you can see in the third line at the end on the right, there was a 2% qualifier, right? So if it's greater than or equal to 2%, you're going to go N, right? There was no choice. Previously, the 2% was the deciding factor, right? There was no school committee choosing. When we reviewed this and came up with this potential suggestion, and I can't remember when we did it, this is what we came up with. The committee that was seated at the time, this is what the compromise or this is what you see here is what came up. came out of that last review that should have gone to Desi and the lawyers, and I'm not sure where it is, but that's where it went.
Right. But
Jonathan, can you explain the difference between D and N for those of us that
That'd
forget?
be helpful.
In layman's terms,
Yep.
so as Jim, I guess Jim sort of explained it too, right? So N is the easier one, so I'll start with that, right? So N is the combined vote of the district. So again, if you don't put a local restriction on it like we have in both times, N says you put it out there, most votes combined between the two towns wins. You combine the yeses, you combine the nos, right? That's it. That's the deciding factor. After that, legally, the district is allowed to proceed forward with incurring debt and doing its projects. And then the towns have to figure out how to pay for them. Again, our school, the seated committees at the time chose to add the local caveats to it. So yeah.
But they have to, yeah.
Correct. They do not have to. D, you vote to incur the debt, or you vote to, what I don't know, however you vote to incur debt, right? And then it goes to the Board of Selectmen, Jim, is that correct? And
Yep,
they get to
right.
decide
Doesn't
what
say
to do with
that.
it.
they can do something or nothing. If they do, you have to wait 30 days. If they do nothing, you just proceed. But they have 30 days to decide to do something.
So what
And then
can
if they
to
decide,
do?
right, isn't there a town meeting involved?
Well, it's up to them. They could decide, all right, we reviewed the project and we're going to go to town meeting and we're going to decide it there. They could come up with any number of things that they want to do.
And that's in.
That's D.
D. Yeah,
That's
I mean,
D.
I think I agreed to this change, like this language as we have it now, for a reason, and I don't think my reasons have changed, that we don't want to be hampering committees moving forward. We did change, it's, choose to do that for the high school project and followed through with the high school field because it's a continuation of the high school project, that we saw it as that, but I'm not inclined to continue that moving forward.
So, so from my understanding, right now, the way this is worded, this is the agreement.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
no, I think the agreement is without the strikeouts, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Without the strikeout. So
That's been vetted.
but the process that appears in subsection D, that is already in the agreement. And so unless it's over 2%, at 2% you go to N.
Yes, that's in the current approved agreement. Yes.
But below 2%, you stay at D.
Yes.
Okay. I would argue that it's not in either town's best interest to go to D. I just thinking scenario wise, what if Shirley wanted capital funding for a new elementary school, and it passed by the first vote by the combination of both towns, and then AIR voted to not approve it. Shirley doesn't get to school. Is that correct?
No, but the elementary schools are kind of a different animal because they exist. I forget the breakout. I think it's 85%. If 85% of, and that number could be wrong, but I think it's 85%. If the elementary school is 85% attended by students of that town, then that town is going to bear the responsibility for the project. So if we built an elementary school in Shirley, AIR's not paying for the elementary school in Shirley. If AIR decides to build an elementary school, then Shirley's not paying for the one in AIR.
So even though we're a district, each town's elementary school is on their own?
Well, wait, hold on. It's
Unless we
up
did it
in the
regional.
agreement. It's up in the agreement. It's further up in the agreement.
Okay.
So keep in mind too that so right now the agreement reads that each town will have its own elementary school. One of these proposed edits is to remove that restriction and kind of open it up so that if a regional was chosen to be the best option, then it's at least allowed to be considered. Right now, you can't even consider it.
Okay.
But if it was a regional elementary school and we had just D, then right, each town could hamper the other for a regional elementary school. We would eliminate the overall vote carrying the day.
Right, and then you would be in a situation where, like, suppose you're going to try to build a new regional elementary school, and Shirley said yes and Air said no. Then Shirley would be on their own to build a new school if they wanted to, or Air would be on their own to build a new school if they wanted to.
So the other thing too, just from personal experience, when I was going over some of these scenarios with the attorney 2 years ago, one of his things was don't try and write it for every scenario that exists, because you don't know what you're going to be doing or possibly hamstringing people. So if you look up further in the agreement, there's portions where the agreement was revised to handle the debt of the high school. Because, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but there was some agreement made so that Air would also pay middle school debt or something to that effect. But you can, so the regional agreement, for better or for worse, can be a living document and can be adjusted as necessary. So even when we make all these changes, recommended or not, whatever we come to a final agreement, we have to take it to towns in both, town meeting in both towns for adoption. Right? There isn't just, we make a decision, then it goes, then it's law. It needs to still be.
And it has to be a super town meeting too.
Well, it doesn't have to be a super town meeting. The towns have to decide on the body of the agreement as it exists. You can't, neither town meeting can amend the document. They have to either accept it or reject it, but the meetings do not have to occur at the same time.
Since originally it had to occur at the same time, why wouldn't it have to occur at the same time? Because you don't want feedback.
Because our district,
like we crushed it. No, we passed it.
no, the original agreement happened that way because there was no district. But if you take a look at the title sheet here, we've amended this document, as John said, it's like the US Constitution, right? We've amended the document 3 independent times to reflect changes in the current situation. So it has been amended. This is part of a review that's about 5 years out of date. So we are required, according to this agreement, to review it every 5 years. And we're just trying to comply with that, which is causing this read of all the articles. But once we come up with what we want for the agreement, the modified agreement, we would present both of those to the towns to explain the reason behind the changes. And then it would go to either an annual or a special town meeting for the towns to adopt them.
If I might ask Dr. Malone if she's, are you there? Dr. Malone? Yeah. Hi. Sorry. Did we ever hear anything back from Attorney Bresnahan after after we brought this back up to him? I know he was reviewing it at some point too.
Yes, he was still trying to reconnect with DESE because remember, any changes that you make, it has to go to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education for them to approve it. And then you have to bring it to town meeting. So the changes that you had made prior to the pandemic, when we sent it to him, and then he had sent it to DESE, he got some feedback. And I'm waiting to hear back from him on that. So that's where that stands. I just recently asked him about it and he said he was still waiting. So, and I I did ask him, I said, this is kind of becoming urgent because they're working on it and they would like to get that draft back to know that Department of Education approved the changes that you made prior.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer, obviously, but it confuses me as to why if the major vote, including both towns, passes, why then one town or the other would be able to stop the project. I don't understand. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand the logic of that.
I agree.
And
Yeah,
that's
well,
why
in
Ed
the-
is in there.
Yeah, okay, but I just want to give a brief history. We're on the worked up copy here. But the school committee's stance has changed on multiple occasions. Prior to the vote for the high school, the school committee, as I'm sure Michelle and Joyce will remember, had a vote that changed section 10 to reflect subsection D alone. And then and that stood, and we said we will let the school committee vote stand with that. And at the next review of the regionalization agreement, we would incorporate the change. And then when we had the review a couple of years ago, this second sentence was added to the change. I think Mr. Kelly was the chair at that time, which is different than the vote that was taken. The vote that was taken was Joyce. It was at a combined building committee and school committee meeting that was held in the middle school. I can get you the dates if you want to have the dates, and we have the minutes of who was there and who voted. I can get that for you if you wish.
I don't remember it being.
Committee wouldn't have had any. Wouldn't have.
What's
any,
that?
The building committee shouldn't have had any standing.
No, it was at a combined meeting, and Mr. Kelly was running it from the school committee standpoint, and we had a school committee vote at that combined meeting to make the change to subsection D.
Can I ask another question? So this
Sure.
has been without the strikeouts. This section 10 has been in existence for 5 years. Is that
Well,
what
as
you're
long
saying?
as the region.
Years.
What?
As long as the region.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't understand why there needs to be this big change. Like what isn't working? I guess I'm missing something here.
Well, Jim, maybe if you want to do the advantages and disadvantages, I think that's
Well, I mean, I'll go further back. Really, where this comes back to is that it comes back to the formation of the district. When the study committee came up and did a number of presentations to the townspeople, I went to all of those. I was very excited about the prospects of the towns creating a district because, in my estimation, the Shirley School District was sinking like a stone, and we were within an eyelash of really receivership as far as I could see it. And I think Air had its own series of problems, and clearly, and I'll give a lot of credit to the people that worked on that and to really Mr. Frost in particular had a lot to do with it to come up with this option. They worked very hard for it at all of those forums. All right. And we have video record of what was presented. The thing that was made very clear, and I know it was made very clear because I specifically asked the question of the person who was chairing the forums from Shirley and the person that was chairing the forums in Air. That the two big questions that came up with the district, and it wasn't the formation, whether Shirley had equal representation or not. It wasn't any of that sort of stuff, because clearly nobody on this committee cares, what side of the river the kids sleep on. Everybody is in this for the students. But when it came to the formation of the district, they made a clear distinction, And both of them, I think they had decided correctly. One was that when it came to operating costs, they came up with a procedure where the towns would vote on the annual budget. And if it passed in both towns, fine. If one town rejected it, it would come back to the school committee. The school committee could amend it or not amend it. They could send it back to the town. And if it didn't pass the second time, then there would be a super town meeting in which everybody would get together and it would be voted on there. And that would be the end of it. And for me, I thought that was brilliant because it protects the lifeblood of the district, which is the annual budget. The other thing that came up at the time is that everybody was aware when they were putting this thing together, one of the driving forces that was pounded by this regionalization committee was that Laura A. White was about to fall down and we had to get out of there right away. It had colossal problems that we couldn't possibly get past. Shirley would get to move its elementary school to the site of the middle school for around $300,000. They estimated at the time. That was the presentation number. And as it was studied, it was over $3 million, but at the presentation time was $300,000. And then there was going to be a regional high school, middle school built in air. When it came up to the capital expenditures, I asked point blank from the presenters, I said, I understand how the annual costs and budget costs are going to be handled, but when it comes to a major capital expenditures, will the votes of the independent communities be held separately or combined? And they were very, very clear. And there's video evidence in explaining that on major capital projects, the town's vote would stand alone. Then when we got to the actual town meetings, and I'll tell you why I'm hanging on to this like a pit bull on a bone, is because I personally blame myself for this. I'm one of these pain in the ass people who reads absolutely everything he signs. My first closing on my house when I was 24 years old, it took 6 hours. The attorneys were ready to strangle me because I told
Glad you weren't there, Michelle.
I told the attorney handling it to get me all the documents a week in advance. I'll mark them up and you can get them back from me to answer my questions, but that didn't happen. So it took a long time and a lot of documents changed. But when we got time to vote to form the new district, I stood up and raised both hands. I thought they did a phenomenal job. I was excited about what was going on. But had I read Chapter 71, subsection 16, N versus D, that wouldn't have happened. If that was made clear at the time the district was formed, it wouldn't have happened. When the forums were held, both of the person from Shirley and the person from here were exceptionally clear that major capital items would be handled independently. I am not saying that anything nefarious happened. As you can tell just by reading this paragraph, it is very confusing lingo. I'm not saying anything bad happened. I'm saying this did not reflect what everybody's understanding was at the time of the vote. And I'm merely trying to change this paragraph to reflect what the understanding was at the formation of the district and to reflect what we have done on the two major capital projects.
It seems to me that we need to really, that was a long time ago, and it seems to me we need to really look at the fact that we are combined, two towns combined. This is one district, and we need to embrace it as one district. And I don't know, instead of having one town fighting with another. I don't see where the problems have been, I guess, to have to make these changes.
I guess I'd want to also see the video evidence because that wasn't, I mean, I don't remember, to be honest, going that far back that it was set in stone that was how things were going to happen, because we've had discussions several times as a school committee about this language over the years, and I remember saying, you know, we don't want to hamper future school committees. We want to keep this language as it is. So I mean, I remember those conversations. I don't remember the pitches that were made at the time of regionalization. So I can't, speak to whether that was what everyone understood at the time. I do know that we've had conversations in years subsequent to that where we've definitely discussed these two options and left subsection N in for a reason. And we've agreed on that. So I don't, as a committee, we've agreed on that. So I don't know why we'd be taking it out however many years later, 10 years later.
I would like to see what the attorney and Desi has to say about it, but
well, I can tell you the attorney's going to say, don't hamper yourself. You don't know what's going to happen, and don't make it so. I mean, we're making it more restrictive than it has to be. It's in the statute for a reason, to give those options. And for us to make it as hard as possible doesn't make sense.
Agree.
Well, I think you're correct in one matter. I think that we should, let's talk to the people that were involved when they did the forums. We know who they were. We can get the video evidence. I can get the dates of who voted when on this, and we can ask those people why they reversed their vote a couple times. And we can probably come up with something that people will understand. Ultimately, we all know that this Section 10 is in there the way it is written. That's the one that's enforced right now. And we just have to decide whether we want to leave it the way it's in there, given the history of it or not. And I'm just saying that if this was understood on the date that people were voting on the district, we wouldn't have a district right now. So I am really glad that I did not read this the morning I was sitting in the gymnasium or the auditorium in Shirley to vote for the district. I'm glad I didn't read it, but I'm just saying this is definitely opposite of what was presented in the forum. They made an expressive point about large capital projects because the district was going to have a very large capital project. And that is also the impetus for the vote that we had when we were at the combined meeting with the school building board.
If Michelle is saying that this has been reviewed multiple times, what makes you think people don't understand the way it is? The way it's like, it doesn't sound like people have come forward and said, I'm really concerned with Section 10 of the agreement, if it's been reviewed and discussed. And this is obvious. Yeah, go ahead.
No, because on each of the large capital projects, we've allowed the towns to maintain control over whether they would pass on an independent basis. We've allowed both Air and Shirley to vote yay or nay on it. So it's not come. But if right now on the school committee meeting we had a couple weeks ago, it was mentioned that if we had another negative vote, we could just borrow the funds anyway. And
so this is about the fields.
This is about any large capital project. Doesn't matter. It's not, if the fields is one, the building a high school was another one, that's what it has to deal with, any large capital project.
So Jim, which one did we do for the high school?
The high school we did the only one that was in effect for the only thing that has been in effect for any of we've only had two major projects, the high school and the fields. Right. And the only thing that's been in effect has been N. And the school committee has on both occasions put a provision that the town's vote would be held. The district had to vote overall, but the towns had to vote affirmatively independently. We've done that twice. And I'm just trying to have that codified in the regionalization agreement.
I'm not sure where we go from here. I have my concerns about this, and obviously I wasn't around when those discussions were going on. I don't know what people said or what people guaranteed or what people didn't
Right.
guarantee. I'll just restate my concern. I think that it's dangerous that one town or the other can hamper or put a stop to a project when the community at large, the district at large, votes to approve it, and that concerns me.
So just as sort of an aside, after listening to this spirited discussion, and that's fine, I think what we may want to do is consider also, and I don't know, we have to consult with the lawyer on this too, but if we do come to an agreement on changes, presenting a certain set of changes that are less debatable. And by that, I mean, there's a whole bunch of text in there that talks about the formation of the agreement in the first few years, right? I can probably guess that those aren't going to be contentious articles. And as Jim mentioned, we can't amend at town meeting, we can only yay or nay it. So I think one thing we should also consider when we discuss this with the attorney is, can we separate it out a little bit and take some articles a little bit in separation? I realize it may cause some confusion for people, but I think there may be some changes that are debated more than others, and does it seem worth it to have them all bundled in as one? But anyways, that's just my opinion on that part of it. But I definitely would like to see what the attorney and/or Desi has to say about it, and possibly, even look at some other regional districts around here to see what they do.
Well, and we're a member of the regional district organization, so we could work with them also.
Oh, the MA.
Yeah, I can't think of the acronym right now.
Mars.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So why don't we
something or other.
At this, there's a lot to chew on there, and everybody can take a look at number 10 and they can pull out their giant book that they send us every year, Mary, that I really wish they wouldn't do. When they send the MASC sends everybody a copy of the MGL.
Yeah.
It's a complete waste of paper. I mean, you can get that online, and if you're looking for anything, you're looking for a paragraph somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know why they can.
Yeah, it's hard
I
to
don't know why
navigate.
they continue to do that, but they continue to do it.
Well, I think that's another
Time
subject
thing in
that's not for this.
Yeah, but outside of 10, clearly there's more work to be done on 10. I think we're off to a good start here. On the other minor changes, does anybody see a problem with the other changes that I brought forward tonight?
So when we did the markup in June 19th, 2018.
Yeah,
were
that's
some of those
fine.
changes in there also?
Yeah, they're in this document already. I'm working off the change document, and I don't know, what did I make, a half a dozen just wording changes. So if we're okay with those things, then all we have left is section 10 and we're good.
So the strikeouts were approved already?
By the school committee, but nothing has been brought to the towns at all. It's only school committee review.
Okay, do we have a copy that has the strikeouts eliminated so you can just read it without having that?
Yeah, there's one of those floating around too.
I could ask Michelle to send it to you tomorrow.
Thank you. That makes it easier to read. It's hard to read with all of the strikeouts. This is included, isn't included. I mean, I'd like to know what it is we're looking at right now.
So the strikeouts are what we discussed a couple of years ago as a school committee and had agreed to. Right. And that was what I think we had sent Jonathan. Was that what had gone to Desi and the lawyer? That
right.
Was
so
that's June 19th, 2018.
Yeah. So what basically happens is it goes to the lawyer and he makes sure that there's nothing, off the top wrong with it. And then they sort of give it to Desi to say, hey, what do you think about this? And Desi sort of looks at it and gives back things, because what they don't want to have happen is for you to make a bunch of changes and then approve them at a town meeting and then send them to Desi and Desi reject them.
Right,
Because,
right.
and have you to start the process all over again. So you're sort of, Desi sort of approves it twice, I guess is the way it would be.
I know there was some feedback, initial feedback from Desi, because Kevin and I had some correspondence at that time, and I'm gonna be honest to say I'm not exactly the detail, and he didn't have it either. So I will write to him again tomorrow and have him prioritize this. I'll ask him again to get the original one that was sent from Desi, so that you can work with a document that you agreed on those changes prior you vote, because I think the school committee has to vote to agree on the changes first.
Yes.
Yeah, so though you voted as a committee on the changes that Jonathan, you had worked on. And so I think it's a good place to get that draft, because that would be the draft you want to work with if you're going to make any additional changes now. And then it would be, I guess, written in red or something. So back to the attorney, then back to Desi.
Good.
Because actually, some of those strikeouts are pretty meaningful with the location of the schools, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, so this document that you're looking at right now is the document that was, okay, we've discussed, we've worked through all these changes. Here, Desi, here, Kevin, this is what this is what we want you to give us feedback on. So that's how far we had gotten.
Which is why I'm saying, Joe, this was discussed
Yeah, so, okay.
before.
A lot.
So we need to leave this right here, right now, and see if what we hear from Desi.
Right.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jim.
Well, so I just want to understand what you're asking me. So we're going to get the original agreement that doesn't have any strike throughs in the drive. But Jonathan, you're saying this was the document that was sent to Desi, sent the attorney, but then there's additional strikeouts that Jim has, correct? In this.
I don't
Yes.
think we have Jim's strikeouts. I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump in, but
No.
I don't think we have that, do we? I think Jim was reading off of something he's marked up, but I don't think it's incorporated in this.
That's correct.
Yeah,
did you
and I
take
think
this off the
if you scroll to the beginning of this, it'll show that it was reviewed. I don't remember the date, but there's a date at the top of this page.
Yeah, June
Is it maybe
19th, June 19th,
Yeah.
2018.
Okay,
But that
So I'm pretty
hasn't
sure
been-
this
that
is
hasn't
what
gone
we
through
submitted.
channels yet, right?
Right. And then there were just the changes that I read into that I marked, hand marked up on that copy.
Yeah, but
Right,
that's
so maybe Jim, if you get those to them, they can incorporate into this one.
Right. This is the one, but this is marked up from 3 years ago. Kevin hasn't had it for 3 years.
I don't know why if you look at the title, it says October 2018, and I seem to recall October 2018, but there was a lot of busy times in there with other things, so
Yeah, because
it's
I can tell you,
definitely been a while. I was surprised when
I've
I
seen the
pulled up.
agreement.
I'm sorry, Joe. Go
No.
ahead.
This is the first time I've seen the agreement.
so I'll ask him what we sent him and get that back, just to make sure.
Right.
Okay.
Because I
Thank
have
you.
I have June 19th. I don't have October 19th.
Well, no,
But
if you look
it's
at
the
the
same as June 19th, right?
no. If you look up at the top of the page, up top of the screen, it says ASRSD Regional Agreement.
Yep.
Go further up, October 2018 edits V1. We'd have to look back and see where we were debating it.
Okay. I guess I don't have the right copy.
No, you do. Whatever Mike is showing now is correct.
Yeah, it's way up at the top, Joyce.
Yeah. The title of it, where it says
Mine
6I.
stops it. Mine doesn't go up that far.
No, above, it's on the computer, like the computer page, like.
It's the name of the document.
Yeah, it's the Dutch.
Okay. I don't have that. All right, that's all right. So it was really October that we kept working on it, right?
I barely remember what I had for dinner, Joyce.
That's
This
what
is
I'm
why
saying.
we
I
have
have
minutes.
notes.
Before these things, come on. So we will move on and see what we hear from our lawyer.
All right, I'll work with him.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Moore.
Sure.
Meeting ID.
Item 9 is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee. We're fortunate enough to have Mrs. Lorraine Wilson here tonight, who is the chair and Director of Equity and School Counseling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just have a brief report from our last meeting, which was held on January 28th, 2021. And at that meeting, we reviewed the committee structure, the purpose, mission, and norms, as it was my first meeting as chair. And then I was able to report out on many of the ASRSD DEI initiatives, including the task forces at each school, which I have had the opportunity to visit, and I'm working to sort of help support and resource those groups. And I talked a little bit about some of the initiatives that each group is undertaking. We talked about Black History Month, February being set aside as a time for us to think intentionally about Black history, though we're looking, of course, at our curriculum and how we incorporate it year round. The high school student council took on a project of a week of action, which is actually going on right now through Black Lives Matter at School. And their themes are restorative justice, diversity and globalism, intergenerational Black families, and empowering Black women. And they have sort of definitions for each of those things and a couple of examples of folks who have done work in those areas. I also reported that Charlie and I have been talking about curriculum and professional development, and Charlie also sent out a resource list a couple of weeks ago to all staff, encouraging them to use those resources. So then we talked a little bit about some initiatives that the committee has been working on around professional development. And I assured them that I would look at the recommendations that they have made, and that I would, that Charlie and I would sort of cross-reference what we had and the things that we were thinking about. We talked a little bit about the school climate survey, the calendar of speakers. We're going to have someone in March talking about LGBTQIA issues. And our next, and we have a few recommendations that we're going to be putting forth to the school committee at a later date. We didn't have them finalized by Friday, so we did not include them in tonight's meeting. Our next meeting is on February 11th at 7 p.m. It's an open forum. And there's going to be a video and a guided discussion on implicit bias and sort of more covert racism, and how we might be able to educate ourselves and understand how they relate to the work of the committee and the work of DEI at ASRSD. And that's it.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for anyone?
Lorraine, pardon my my ignorance, but the LGBTQ, I don't, what's IA?
Oh, so so the I stands for intersex, and the A can there's debates about what the A stands for, but it can stand for asexual, and some people believe that it also stands for ally.
For what?
Ally,
Oh.
a person allied with a community.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I just had a follow-up question. Is the speaker series for the community at large, or is it for the high school group, middle school?
The speaker series is for the community at large.
Oh, awesome.
So they're doing sort of having different folks talk about different populations each month.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone? Sorry it had to go so late, Lorraine.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
Starting to get on. Starting to get on.
I just wanted to jump in and thank Lorraine for taking it on. You ran a great meeting, and
thank you.
I
Second that.
appreciate it.
Hard.
Thank you.
Very
Sorry,
good.
we had to take up so much of your night tonight for you to
Oh,
wait.
no,
for your
that's
turn.
okay. That's okay.
I was texting her.
Everybody-
That has been very interesting.
Yes. I'm learning a lot.
There you go.
That's positive. That's good.
Okay, moving right along, if everybody's all set. We have item number 10, policy review report from Mr. DeForge about sexual harassment and Title IX policy, combining it with the bullying policy.
Yes, so we did get some guidance back. So I guess take it back to our last meeting, right? We wanted to not go too far until we had some guidance back from the attorney. He provided that guidance this morning, so I didn't have a great chance to dig into it. One of the comments was basically you're trying to combine harassment, sexual harassment, and bullying all into one, and they don't really like that. They think that it would be better to pull it out and keep it the same, or keep it each individual aspect have its own policy. So I guess at this point, it's probably a matter of the subcommittee just sort of grabbing it and moving on into it. I was going to propose next Monday night for us to meet, but I don't know, given that we have a selectmen's meeting, it's probably not a great night. And Charles and Jim, I don't know if you want to meet sometime next week to discuss it and sort of take on what the attorney said and move along. We can do that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, I'm glad that we had him review it because we would have done a lot of work for naught. So at least now we're going to get to deal with what he's got there. And I just took again, we just got it recently. So I just took a quick glance at it, and I didn't have any major problems with anything that's in there. But for me, a lot of it is going to be reorganizing a few things and then changing it from lawyer speak to something that any person could read and understand what's being presented in there. Because I take a look at the policy manual, it has to control what our behavior is, but I also want it to be a resource for the general population at large. So I want to try to make sure that it reads very clearly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't disagree. One of the interesting things was they still use, and I guess this is why I ended up going down the combination of harassment versus sexual harassment, and just trying to combine it into one, is because they use the term harassment and sexual harassment sort of interchangeably. And that's why I think I ended up going down that road now that I think about it. But I also want to be explicitly clear that if we're going to separate these policies out, that this is where it says harassment on a sexual harassment policy, I think it should say sexual harassment, not just harassment, right? Those two words should be linked together everywhere in the document. That's just my take. We can certainly discuss it more. But
so can you have an overview that all these things, while they're still attacking another person in some way, I don't accept maybe what the enforcement is. It's like if you're being beat up in the cafeteria, I mean, I don't know why you're trying to separate them, because it seems like a lot of it should go down the same page, and you might have to divide it at the bottom to something like enforcement, or what's
The
going to
attorney
happen
kind of
from then on.
The attorney explained why it needs to be separated out, because there's much, I guess, how did he word it, Jonathan? Much stricter laws attached to
yes,
the sexual harassment piece versus harassment. And so you want to make sure you separate that out.
Right.
It all because of the law.
But aren't there the same kinds of things with respect to religious harassment and racial harassment? And I mean, I don't think you can separate out all of them. And I understand what he said about that, but it seems to me that, just like everything, you start singling out every specific one because it has specific, connotations, it gets to be really cumbersome.
I don't disagree. I thought I had it kind of brought down together, and they struck a lot of it out. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, no, I saw that. That's.
But when you don't have to have the legal references in the policy itself, and you could put the legal references later that would refer to Title IX or whatever other legal references you might have.
I think
it seems like it's less cumbersome if you can combine even parts of it.
Yeah. I mean, they do this work all the time, and I just would add that the sexual harassment, as he stated, and I think I've talked about, is that it is subject to specific laws. And the other piece, and he and I talked about this as well, and he wrote this in the email that I forwarded to you, that there is some concern that Title IX, the regulations have changed recently, but we have a new administration, and they could change again. So that's the other piece. But I think, his guidance to us, or to the school committee, I should say, is that the sexual harassment Title IX is very specific to laws and regulations, and you have to make sure that the rules are in there and that they be followed. And I think what he also stated, which I think resonates, is that when you make language changes, sometimes, having him, particularly around the sexual harassment, you have to make sure that you're not having the unintended implications or consequences of such language when it comes to laws and regulations. So I think that's because a sexual harassment case is very serious, and obviously, and so we'd want to make sure that the committee is following the laws and regulations, as well as those of us in the district.
It was my hope that we could put these together, but I find it unlikely that I'll be able to have Mr. Bresnahan throw it in reverse. So I'm already on board with the train about doing this Title IX sexual thing separately from the other two.
Yeah.
Do we want to, Jim and Cheryl, do you want to set a time for maybe Tuesday or Wednesday next week to grab a couple hours?
Yep. Carlin's?
Yeah. Fuck, guys.
I think Carlin's is closed, isn't it?
Yeah, good luck with that.
You could sit in the parking lot.
Yeah,
I'm there.
won't be too cold.
You can watch the trains at the same time.
Can you have a fire pit in public parking lot?
There you go. Hey, I've been in parking lots going to all the swim meets. It's been 15 degrees with 20-knot winds, and I'm watching a swim meet from outside the glass. So,
Are you doing this, like peering in?
Yeah, that's it.
That's
basically.
kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Just put your face against the window because it'll be nice and warm.
Yeah.
Don't stick your tongue out, you'll be really in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Many
place.
children have done that, right? As parents, like, what? You say, what the heck's going on here? Anyhow.
And this is what happens when you go after 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So Tuesday or Wednesday time preference?
Doesn't matter because I can't go to hockey games. They don't allow spectators. So
All right. So
pick a day. Tuesday.
Tuesday 6:30 sound good?
That's good.
All right. I'll get Michelle Town to post it since it's an official subcommittee meeting.
Okay.
And thank you, the three of you. Thank you for taking that on.
Yeah, agreed. You guys rock.
Yeah, well, don't say that until you actually see what we do.
It's very unwieldy.
And I think just sort of finishing that thing, I think it's going to end up going back to the attorney multiple times before we.
Yeah.
More than once.
Sounds like it.
Anyway, thanks, guys.
Okay.
I had no notes tonight, except just to follow up that I think everybody was glad that they didn't have Zoom today, that they had a real snow day. And there's nothing else. Any other topics up for discussion?
I have something,
Come up in
Madam
48
Chair.
hours.
I'm sorry.
Mr. DeForge.
Hi, sorry, me again. So I talked to Mr. Kuchar independently over the weekend about the charting the course, mini charting the course
Right.
that I had proposed. He's open to it. We sort of chatted through it, and we may look at like the last week in February, so 23, 24, 25, he'd be available to do it. So I'm just if the committee wants to have a consensus on a date for that.
Not the 24th, because the high school, the AP Lit class is doing the Hamlet presentation via Zoom.
Nice.
And we're going to have a 24th, we're going to have try to put together a meeting so we could pick the committee.
That may not have to be a meeting as such. So we could do the mini thing and then we could do those together.
So really, it doesn't matter. We just have to. I'm okay with doing a double backed meeting. I think I talked to Glenn, and 1 to 2 hours should be enough. I started putting it together to like some of the topics today. So.
It'd be great if we could do it together. That'd be good. If we could tackle both items in the same night.
Okay, I'll get to Glenn and we'll see what we have for people. And so if we temporarily set up a meeting for Tuesday, I'm sorry, what was the date there?
23rd.
24.
Oh,
Well, Cheryl can't do the 24th, so let's pick a different one.
Oh,
okay.
24th was a Tuesday or Monday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
20,
so let's do the
23 is a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay, and all the names have to be in by the 22nd, so the 23rd is fine.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I'll work on that.
Wait, did the 23rd work for Glenn? You said 24, 25, 26. Were those dates?
No, I meant 23 through 25.
Oh,
okay. So
All right.
All right. What comes up starts here and ends
temporarily
up
as the 25th, and we can see if it changes.
That's fine. And then that's it for that. But he was definitely very intrigued by it, and he actually said he wished more districts would do this, especially with the advent of Zoom. So we may be sort of a guinea pig here, but I think it's
going to one of their programs on Friday.
Oh, are you?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I think it'll be good. Hopefully we can get some participation from different groups and the community at large, just so they can understand what the role of the school committee is, especially in a regional district. Right, it's a little bit different than a standard school district. So, or one
we
town.
could ask him to slant it in that direction.
I can do that. Like I said, I've been kind of putting it together. It's stuff that for good or for bad, a lot of it is already explained in the policy manual, but hearing it may be a little bit different.
No, I think that's a great idea, Jonathan. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan.
So tentatively February 25th at 6:30 by Zoom.
So we said the 23rd.
23rd.
Where am I getting these dates? I'm sorry. I'm not going to come with a calendar next time. I apologize. Okay, any other discussion? Jonathan, just put that in. Communications, please.
Oh, goodness me. Announcements. All right. So tomorrow, Wednesday, February 3rd, progress reports issued for grades preschool through 8. Tomorrow, February 3rd, is also pooled testing informational meeting for parents, guardians via Zoom. Grades pre-K through 5, 6 to 6:30 p.m. Grades 6 through 12, 6:45 to 7:15 p.m. Thursday, February 4th, half day of school for grades 6 through 8, evening parent-teacher conferences. Thursday, February 4th, evening parent-teacher conferences for grades 9 through 12. Friday, February 5th, half day of school, grades 6 through 8, and an afternoon parent-teacher conferences. They get a short week this week. Wednesday, February 10th, ASRSD Special Education Parent Advisory Board, CPAC meeting, 7 p.m. via Zoom. Monday, February 15th, no school in honor of President's Day. Tuesday, February 16th through Friday, February 19th, no school for February school vacation. Tuesday, March 2nd, school committee meeting and public FY22 budget hearing, 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. Wednesday, March 3rd, progress reports issued for grades 9 through 12. That
Thank you,
concludes our
Jonathan.
announcements.
Before we adjourn, I'd like to do a special thanks to Michelle Town and to Mike Tebow for their uncomplaining support of this committee.
Yeah, thank both of
Thank you
you.
very much.
Awesome
Thank you.
jobs.
If anyone wishes to make a motion,
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Second,
and I have 9:22. I could be wrong.
9:16.
Thank you. I keep my watch fast. Get me on time. 9:16. There's a motion to adjourn, and there's a second. Michelle, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. DeForge,
Aye.
Mrs. Granger,
Aye.
Mr. Leone,
Aye.
Mr. Quinty,
Aye.
Mrs. Reshoots,
Aye.
Mrs. Simmons.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.